All right, so hello everyone. Thank you everybody for coming out to hear about our winter and spring books. And thank you so much to our authors and publicists and editors who have joined us today. I'm Alex Nicolaisen, Director of Digital Sales and Marketing at Kensington, and I am going to share our presentation, which will show you some of the books we're most excited about in the coming months, and turn it over to some of our other speakers to talk about the books. And then I will talk about several of the titles at the end. And of course, if you have questions during, you can put them up in the chat. And Samantha from the Digital Sales and Marketing team will put our email addresses in the chat if you want to reach out to us afterwards and request ARCs, or if you have any questions, we're happy to answer and work with you on however we can. So we will go ahead and get started. So we're going to be talking about titles from January to June 2024. This, of course, is not our entire list of books in the first half of the year, but it's some of the ones we wanted to make sure that we shared with librarians. And I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michelle, who is one of our publicists who is working on several of our really exciting titles in the winter and spring. And we already have technical difficulties, so that is great. Instead of me going ahead and talking about these, I will move ahead in the presentation to Anna Bliss, so Michelle, you were just frozen. But
I've returned.
You are back. So I will go back and we can start with Familia.
All right, everyone. Let me tell you about Familia by author Lauren E. Rico. So, with a voice exuding insight and empathy, Familia is a tale of sisterhood and self-discovery that really examines the power of female friendship and sisterhood, both chosen as well as familial. Set against the bold beauty of San Juan, the story centers on a really baffling genealogy test that connects two 20-something women, Gabby from New York and Isabel from San Juan, across both cultures and class. Without giving too much away, readers will be immersed in the novel's dual timeline, which will keep them guessing as to what really happened to a missing infant and how events unfolded the day she disappeared 5 years ago. While the story addresses some really serious issues, such as illegal adoption and sexual assault, its humor and page-turning plot really keeps it buoyant and refreshing. Familiar is both a commercial yet substantive, filled with meaning, heart, and wit. And the book strikes this really perfect balance between feel-good fiction and a little bit of a touch of mystery, as well as issue-driven drama. And needless to say, it's absolutely perfect for any of your local book clubs and includes both an author letter and discussion questions guide. I should also note that the author's personal history and ties to the island of Puerto Rico directly inspired the narrative. Lauren Rico's frequent trips to Puerto Rico, where her grandmother was born, really helped her rediscover her heritage and culture as an adult, seeing the land with these fresh, curious eyes, drinking it in and really embracing the culture. This is kind of shadowed by the character of Gabby, who you'll get to know while reading the title. Lauren began writing to combat her chronic depression, and through the process, really discovered so much more about herself, not only as an author, as a creator, but also emotionally and in terms of her heritage. And I should note, outside of writing, Lauren Rico is a very well-known radio host whose career in classical music broadcast has really taken her to radio stations across the United States. She currently works for Sirius XM's Symphony Hall channel, as well as stations in North Carolina, Tampa, Florida, and New York. So people and readers across the country are already familiar with her voice. Audibly, now they have to read her voice in a written format. As a producer, she's won a whole bunch of awards, and she is this is her first traditionally published novel, her traditional publishing debut. However, she has won several awards for independently published novels that are primarily romance. So if you want an author to do a visit or a virtual event with you, that's great with speaking with other authors and has experience not just in contemporary fiction, but also romance of various sorts. Lauren's a great option.
That was amazing. And I just because I just read this, because I just read this, I do want to jump in and say how much I loved it. I read it in about a day. It was so good. Couldn't put it down. And it will be our Between the Chapters book club pick for the month of January. For more information on our book club, you can also reach out and we will send you some information on that to join and follow along as well.
Thank you. So our next novel is The Diamond of London, which is by author Andrea Penrose. So fans of Shauna Abe, Teresa Ann Fuller, and Fiona Davis will be absolutely captivated by this really unforgettable heroine in the tenacious spirit found in USA Today bestselling author Andrea Penrose's The Diamond of London, a brand new historical novel that's based on the real life of British aristocrat, antiquarian, and adventurer Lady Hester Stanhope, so roughly 1776 to 1839. She is amazing, and everybody should know about this woman. I should know this is actually the first book that is written about Lady Hester Stanhope. So she was born into this really blue-blooded family, swashbuckling war heroes, really brilliant political leaders, so on and so forth. But Lady Hester Stanhope really seemed to have her own path that she was trying to really kind of go out for. She transcended conventional thinking and really became a legend in her own right that we are hoping to really expose everyone to today. She really refused to conform to the highly laced structures regarding behavior and proper young ladies of the Regency era. Unlike most women of the time, she had both a amazing courage and convictions, and she rarely sought to temper her tongue. Her story is about triumph and tragedy, rising like a phoenix from the ashes of despair to find the strength and courage to keep believing in herself and pursue her quest to live life on her own terms, which I think many women can relate to today, regardless of age. While Penrose's USA Today bestselling historical mysteries have received stellar reviews and excellent sales, this foray into historical fiction will really bring an even broader audience to a beautifully written and really meticulously researched work. The novel explores issues of class, of power, of womanhood, and the challenges that women face. As I mentioned, this is the only novel written about Lady Stanhope. It will strongly appeal to readers who are interested in stories, both fact-based, fiction and nonfiction biographies of women who have undertook these really groundbreaking and awe-inspiring journeys that you may have read of or heard of before, but haven't really gotten a chance to kind of dig further into. Again, this is great for book clubs, great for people who are looking for more information about women that we've never gotten a chance to learn about. And an author's note is included along with the discussion guide. I should note Andrea is a highly respected member of the writing community, not only for her own historical mysteries, but for historical romances. You might be familiar with them under the names Kara Elliott and Andrea Pickens. And she's also a member of the Word Wenches, one of the longest running author blogs on the internet, whose ranks include Jo Beverly, Joanna Bourne, Nicola Cornick, Mary Jo Putney, and Patricia Rice, among others. So a great author to have visit if you would like someone who's great with panels or to bring in a wonderful discussion and conversation type of partner in person or virtual. All right. Oh, I'm so excited about this. So this is going to go in a very different direction right now. We Are Only Ghosts by Jeffrey L. Richards is a brutally candid saga about and an intersectional exploration of sexuality and war, tenderness and trauma, and young desire versus really fierce hate as a teenage boy's unexpected, extremely complicated relationship with a Nazi officer in a World War II death camp is resurrected many years later in 1960s New York City. A meticulously researched, again, novel, the story alternates between mid-century New York, where Charles Ward, this really innocuous 40-something-year-old man, works in Manhattan Cafe, and his late teen slash early 20 spent in Poland and Germany during World War II. Readers encounter a beautifully written work of historical fiction and a really unsettling psychological story, kind of all put together in one. It's touching and horrifying, it's thought provoking, all at once in a way that really kind of stays with you. It's super poignant long after you've read it. Both portions of this novel do take place in World War II death camps. It's important to remember that this is not I'm going to put quotes, Holocaust story. Rather, it's really a story about survival and of a survivor as he works to reconcile his past with his present. Though his experiences during the war really helped to shape him and cut a path into the future for him, they are not what defines him. This becomes more evident throughout the story. There are many twists and turns that you're not going to expect, and you come to really see the character bloom. And that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to give too much away. We Are Only Ghosts examines several challenging and discussion-provoking themes, including Stockholm Syndrome, abandonment, the complexities of identity, really how the people experience in our lives shape us, define us, and remake us. Of course, the discussion questions are included yet again. I should make a comparison with this book to something like The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, or Days Without End by Sebastian Barry. The novel really masterfully unravels moments of tenderness among the violence and hatred of war, and it's just a really powerful story about sexuality, consent, consistency, and the scars of survivor's guilt. Highly recommend. And this is a reoccurring, some of you might already be familiar with author Matt Cain. Fans of the musicals Kinky Boots and Byron Lang's Big Gay Wedding will have their hearts stolen by Becoming Ted by Matt Cain, a vibrant, universally relatable novel about overcoming heartbreak and loneliness with love, self-acceptance, kindness, and the power of drag. So much fun. You might already be familiar with Matt Cain, whose 2022 novel, The Secret Life of Albert Einstein, was an Indie Next pick and a library read selection. So thank you so much for that. The story stars Ted Ainsworth, a sweet, inoffensive, and pleasantly predictable ice cream seller who is convinced there's nothing remotely remarkable about him, except for his handsome, charismatic, super hot husband, Giles. But when Giles suddenly leaves him for another man, Ted, who has spent nearly 20 years living with and often for another person, must reimagine the future he has happily taken for granted. Now is the time for another Ted to blossom. Someone funny, someone sassy, someone uninhibited, someone willing to take chances on new friendships and even new love. Someone who's been waiting in the wings too long and who's about to dust off a long ago secret dream and overturn everyone's expectations of him, especially his own. It's about coming into our own and really living the life not only that we think that we should have, but that we truly deserve. Featuring a gay protagonist and written by a gay author, Becoming Ted is an affirmation that it's never too late to embrace your true self, find love, and live your life to the absolute fullest. It's also a celebration of the human connection and community. Most importantly, it's a heartfelt reminder to always choose joy. I think something we can all use a little bit more of. Oh, this is going wonderful. So, The Medicine Woman of Galveston is a super exciting new novel from Amanda Scanandor, which will definitely appeal to fans of historical fiction, such as Ellen Marie Wiseman's, Christina McMorrison's, Kristen Hamill, so on and so forth. I should know Amanda Scanandor is a nurse herself, And almost all of the books that she's written, and especially for your Kensington, are based on historical, medical kind of fun, interesting things that have happened. More specifically, the Medicine of Women of Galveston has to do with a traveling medicine woman, and more specifically, what happens when she and her troop are stuck in the Great Galveston Hurricane of 1900, which is a real, absolutely devastating hurricane that came through Galveston, Texas, and pretty much just shut the whole place down. It had to be rebuilt in the ensuing years. It really kind of stands out from other novels because our protagonist is a doctor traditionally in that sense from the beginning. However, due to circumstances and the fact that at the time, early early 1900s, women were not typically doctors. They were not necessarily taken seriously by the medical profession. She is shut out of her studied career and is forced to join this medicine show. However, it ends up with her essentially being our saving grace, if you will. And we learn a lot, not only about the strength that is found both within an individual and communities, but also what it really takes to not earn your true grit, but to shine using your true grit as the community kind of rallies around her. I should also note that this particular novel does feature a character, her son, who is differently abled. So that might be an interesting note for anybody looking for books with characters who are of a diverse background or deal with different types of issues that you might not see typically. You might have remembered Amanda's previous work, Second Life of Muriel West. She is more than happy to talk about that as well as any of her other titles. And she is pretty much always available for both in person and online virtual events across the country, based in Las Vegas, Nevada.
This is one I just want to jump in on also. Amanda Skenendor is one of the authors on our list that I am just most excited about, mostly because I've been working on her books since her debut, and Second Life of Muriel West really was a breakout for her. And then The Nurse's Secret has just been like gangbusters since it went on sale almost 18 months ago already. So, and I just love that book also, as an aside. If you haven't read The Nurse's Secret, you must. And then you will definitely want to get your hands on The Medicine Woman of Galveston.
Exactly. We're so excited. And I leave you with my last title, The Trial of Mrs Rylander by Denny S. Bryce. So, inspired by a real life scandal that was shocking even for the tumultuous, roaring 20s, The Trial of Mrs. Rylander by Denny S. Bryce is a absolutely captivating novel that tells the story of a pioneering Black journalist, a secret interracial marriage among the New York elite, and the sensational divorce case that ignited an explosive battle over race and class and brought together two very different women fighting for justice, legitimacy, and the futures they risked everything to shape. This book is absolutely perfect for fans of fact-based historical fiction, recounting the remarkable but under-recognized lives of real 20th century women, such as Take My Hand by Dolores Perkins Valdez and The Personal Librarian by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. This is Denny's third historical fiction novel here at Kensington. There was 2021's Wild Woman in the Blues and 2022's In the Face of the Sun. And this book is based on the true story, as I said, of a pioneering Black female journalist. Her name is Marvel Cook. That is an amazing name. Cook as in Sam Cooke with an E at the end. And the sensational courtroom battles that ensued between the heir of a real estate fortune and his colored wife in the 1925 divorce case of Rylander versus Rylander. So here are the details. Told in a dual storyline, this book recounts the story of Alice Jones Rylander character, the real central figure in the Rylander versus Rylander case, and as I said, Margot Cunningham, who is fictional a fictional character inspired by Marvel Cook and other Black female pioneering American journalists, writers, and civil rights activists. The courtroom battle between Kip Rylander, heir to the real estate fortune, and Alice Rylander hinged on one essential detail: whether he knew that she was Black when they wed, when they got married. The details of the case and how they played out against the backdrop of 1920s New York City and the Harlem Renaissance make for a really compelling read. You will not be able to put this book down. Some real life figures of the Harlem Renaissance who appear in this novel include Langston Hughes, Dorothea Hurston, Duke Ellington, W.E.B. Du Bois, so on and so forth. And it should be known that novels of 20th century history are still super duper popular, and Bryce's signature ability to really uncover little known eras of Black history in the US make her books absolutely shine. Against the backdrop of the Harlem Renaissance in New York, again in the Roaring Twenties, racism, class, sex, and selfless love explode into one of the most impactful but under recognized courtroom battles, real courtroom battles of the 20th century. This particular novel explores issues of race, class, the media, and the challenges women face. The Trial of Mrs Rylander is super well suited for reading groups. The session guide and author's notes are also included. Jenny is super mediagenic, and she is pretty much always available for any appearances that you might like, whether it's virtual, kind of further away. She's willing to travel throughout the southern regions of the U.S. She's in Savannah, Georgia, all the way up to the Mid-Atlantic region. D.C. is very popular. So give me a shout if you want to connect with Jenny.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was amazing.
No problem.
And thank you for taking time out of your days off to come and talk with us about your upcoming books. We're gonna shift it over now to Anna Bliss to talk about her novel, Bonfire Knight.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Good. Hi, I'm so excited to be here and to be able to talk to librarians about my book. It's just really exciting. This is my debut novel. I've been a writer in marketing for years, and I studied English literature as an undergrad and grad student. But this is my first foray into fiction, and it took me 7 years to write. So I'm so excited to be sharing it with the world. Bonfire Knight is a Romeo and Juliet story, but it's set in 1930s and 1940s East London and Brighton, which is a town on the southern coast of the UK, where I went to graduate school. It is about a British Jewish medical student and an Irish Catholic photojournalist who meet at a historic anti-fascism protest in East London on October 4th, 1936, and quickly fall in love. And it follows them through the end of the 30s and the war, and really focuses on how political events affect ordinary people. Kate is, the protagonist is inspired by, she's inspired by a photographer named Lee Miller, who was a Anglo-American photojournalist in World War II. She started out as a fashion photographer in London, and ended up being present at the liberation of several concentration camps. And then she's credited with pushing Vogue and making them print photographs of these liberations and of the concentration camps, because when Lee herself was there at the end of the war, she found that people who lived around the camps denied that anything was going on there. And so she felt it was really important that the world saw evidence of what was happening in Germany, because if the people who lived right next door to it could deny it, then she thought certainly the world would as well. Bonfire Knight is also sort of informed by my own experience in some ways, at least the love story is. I converted to Judaism before I married my husband. my background is Irish Catholic and Scandinavian, and so there's a lot about that, and about interfaith relationships, and sort of the sticky things that can happen when people from different cultures come together. And it is, I think, will really appeal to people who love romance and who love stories. But also the history is very sound and is a product of years and years of research. My master's degree is in literature and visual culture, and I wrote my dissertation about women writers and photographers during the Blitz in London. And so I think if you're a history buff, you will really find a lot in these pages to kind of inspire further reading and those interests as well.
Thank you so much for talking to us about the book, and I'm just amazed to hear how much went into this and how much of your life kind of poured into this book. So just really proud to be able to bring it to readers and librarians. Next up, we will have publicist Anne Pryor to talk about Blood by Dr. Jen Gunter.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm Anne. I'm Kensington's one of Kensington's nonfiction publicity managers. This is going to be completely different from everything that you just heard from Anna and Michelle. I spoke to Jen Gunter this morning, told her I was going to be presenting this book, and she said, and I quote, "Librarians are the superheroes of science." If you don't know her, she is an outspoken gynecologist. She's taken down agents of misinformation, everyone from Gwyneth Paltrow to Washington, D.C. lawmakers, big pharma companies that make products that shame you. You might not even realize that they're shaming you. She has gone on the attack against proponents of misogyny, science deniers. Your library probably carries her first two books, which are New York Times bestsellers, The Vagina Bible and The Menopause Manifesto. Each of those have sold tens of thousands of copies. They've been translated into dozens of languages. And they've opened the door for women and people to have conversations about their healthcare, what's normal, what's not. And she provides quality, bias-free content in her books. So this new book, there's a great visual of all three of her books, but her new book is called Blood. And we're publishing it to Women's History Month. So it's coming out at the end of January. She's going out on tour. And this book is written to really change the conversation about women's health. She pushes back on myths about menstruation. She helps all readers of all ages, understand this incredible natural cycle that follows women throughout their lives. And the book really is, from puberty to menopause. And it's perfect for your patrons who want science, advice, and direction about their health, whether it's for themselves or their families or for the medical community to recommend to their patients. So what will you find in the book? No, going into the ocean while you have your period will not attract sharks. No, menstrual pain is not in your head. No, it's not just women who menstruate. She frequently uses the term people who menstruate. Yes, you deserve a doctor who acknowledges your personal experience every month. Yes, what happens to your body is totally normal. And there is a lot of weird and dangerous and just wrong information out there. So here she corrects troublesome, retrofitted information. She counterbalances the wellness industrial complex. She talks about the virginity construct. She talks about medical fearmongers. She looks at outmoded fears about menstruation, and then she covers everything related, whether it's period tracker apps or abortion or the history of IUD and birth control. Everything is here. She's going out on tour. And if you are interested in ARCs, I've got them. Contact us. If you have any questions about her or you want to know more, our door is open.
Thank you so much, Anne. As always, excellent. We are having a problem with the chat. For some reason, it is not working properly, but there will be a follow-up email after this to everyone who signed up for the presentation today, and our emails will be included in there. So any follow-up questions or ARC requests can be sent there. And there is also a link that will take you to Overdrive's collection of the books where they can be ordered. So shifting now to our new imprint, Erewhon, and Marty Cahill.
Well, hello. Everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up. Great, fantastic. I can't see you wonderful librarians, but I know you're here with us. Thank you so much for the introduction, Alex. Thank you to everybody who has presented so far. A true joy, pleasure, and honor to be here. My name is Marty. I have been with Erewhon since the very beginning, and we've been with Kensington for just over a year now. We've got some incredible books coming out that I'd like to talk to y'all about. As you can see in front of you, this is Womb City, the debut novel from Botswanan author Tlotlo Samasé. Tlotlo is both award-nominated, award-winning for the Landa, the Nomo. Their work has been featured both in short fiction and novella. So here we have her debut novel. The basic pitch, as you can see, A Handmaid's Tale meets Get Out, but this book is so much more than that. Tlotlo is an incredible writer, putting a spin on horror, science fiction, bodily autonomy, women's rights, the surveillance state. Womb City is sort of indicative of a lot of Erewhon titles. If you've never heard of us before, if you've never read anything by us before, all I can tell you is that with any Erewhon book, it's going to be as different from any book that came before it and any book that will come after it. And each of our titles tends to have overlapping genres and multiple things sort of happening all at once, so you get a little bit of everything. This story in particular takes place in the near future, set in Botswana, the country that the author grew up in. Tlotlo is currently in the United States, in California, getting their MFA, but spent their entire life over in Botswana and takes all of that knowledge, all that history, all that culture, and brings us to Womb City, where we meet our protagonist, Nella. Nella is the wife to a very powerful person within the government, a man who controls many aspects of her life, including whether or not she will ever be allowed to have a daughter, child. As we follow her through this life, a life of near constant surveillance, being watched by both her husband and the government and the police force, we learn in this world, many women are in fact being incarcerated more than men, as many women have been microchipped and being surveyed for any potential violence they could ever commit. And Nella being one of them, and of course the threat of having a child and then that child being taken away for any slight infraction or incursion. Throughout this novel, we learn, of course, her many struggles, and we see the main plot kicks in this world where not only are you monitored, but bodies can be continued onwards. Minds can be transported into these bodies with all these various aspects of body horror and body autonomy and rights being taken to their nth extreme, as you might find in any sort of piece of genre. On a rather raucous night with her side piece, we find that Nella and her side piece, this other man, commit accidental murder. There is a car crash, and there is a victim of that car crash who, in this world, unfortunately, her mind is able to jump from body to body to body, looking for revenge. And we see all these various threads between Nella's life and her relationship to her husband, her relationship to this man she's seeing on the side, and relationship to the world at large and this government, all crashing and crescendoing together into something truly beautiful and unique. We have so far had a starred review from Publishers Weekly. We've had a lot of interest from this book from librarians such as yourselves and various booksellers and media and reviewers. And it is just a really beautiful, unique, at times very scary, at times very prescient debut novel that I'm very excited for us to be putting out there. For what you all think about it. So that's Womb City from Floplo Samase. Take a sip of water. All right, the narration continues. Book 2 coming up here at the end of February, as you can see with this beautiful cover. We have River Mama from Zelika Reed Benta. Zelika is a young Black author from Canada whose short story debut collection, Frying Plantain, came out in 2020 and came out to a ton of acclaim. Multiple award nominated, multiple award winning book of short fiction. Zelika has been a Canadian author to watch on the rise. And here we have her not just debut novel, but US debut as well. River Mama, I've sort of been describing as Issa Rae's Insecure by way of Neil Gaiman's American Gods, this mixture of incredible reality, deep friendships, complicated relationships, meeting this mythic folkloric force on the streets of Toronto. Our protagonist is a young Black woman named Alicia Gale. Alicia is not so much a stand-in, but certainly in discussing this book, Zelika made mention that as a young millennial herself, she was seeing all sorts of articles and discussions of what it was to be a millennial, these experiences that she wasn't seeing as truth in fiction, and so decided to do something about herself by combining this history and this culture and this myth that was a part of her life and her family that she wanted to see on the page and explore that way. So we have a young character, Alicia Gale, mid-20s, living in Toronto, sort of aimless, very burned out, exemplified of the millennial experience, and just having a rough go of it, as I think a lot of us within this age group can attest to. One night, heading home, Alicia is stopped by the Jamaican river goddess, River Mama, this water deity that approaches her from the waters of Toronto and sort of tasks her with a mythic quest out of nowhere, and says, hey, you've got 24 hours to find my magic comb, which is incredibly important to her myth and to her story. And Alicia basically goes, wait, what? And we have a exhilarating, thrilling 24-hour ride as Alicia must work with her friends and all these various people in her life to not just find this comb, but bring it back and get it to River Mama, who, even though Alicia doesn't really believe in her, River Mama seems to believe in Alicia. And so we've got this war of both faith in a larger power and faith in oneself, as she's been given this task to step up. And we just had this beautiful adventure through the streets of a city that Zelika knows very well. As you can see here, we've got a lot of wonderful reviews from Canadian media, from Apple Books already. We've got quotes from a plethora of authors in the sci-fi space, such as T.L. Huchu, Samit Basu. You can see Victor LaValle, who was actually Zelika's teacher at Columbia back when she was getting her MFA. And so there's been a lot to love about this novel. It is maybe not as intense as Womb City, but has just as much life, just as much beauty and joy. And I'm really, really excited to have this in your hands. And likewise, NetGalley, Edelweiss, if you're looking for a physical copy, we just got the ARCs in. They're very, very beautiful. And I hope you really enjoy it. It's really, really fun. And then last, but certainly not least, we have the second book from author Victor Manibo. Victor had a book, his debut came out last year in 2022, that was called The Sleepless. And much like all of our authors, Victor loves to play with a little bit of everything. Escape Velocity, much like Sleepless, has elements of science fiction, has elements of thriller, has elements of mystery, it has queer representation, it has representation across many different communities and diverse characters. Victor himself is Filipino. He is queer. He is a lawyer in his day job. And so a lot of that, a lot of the concerns in his day-to-day legalese, he's an immigration lawyer, a lot of the concerns of how society works, how we take care of each other, all come to bear in his science fiction stories. In The Sleepless, a lot of that was about class, a lot of it was about the economy, a lot of it was about capitalism. And in Escape Velocity, coming out at the end of May of next year, our brief pitch has been that it's Succession by way, I'm sorry, it's Knives Out by way of Parasite, but I've also been saying it's Succession by way of The Martian. It's about class, it's about the Earth, it's about climate change, it's about the hyper elite sort of getting what's coming to them, while also seeing all of these incredibly high stakes issues that they themselves have amongst each other. The brief pitch is that it's a group of 4 friends who all went to a very prestigious elite academy when they were much younger, and when something very tragic happened that bound the 4 of them together. Now they find themselves at Space Habitat Altair, orbiting the Earth, where all of the hyper elite are meeting for this reunion from this very prestigious school. While at this reunion, of course, there's all these personal relationships that are coming to bear, finding out the truth of this tragedy that bound them together. But at the same time, all of these hyper elite individuals are jockeying not just for power, but for a ticket off the planet, as there is a expedition to Mars of who is going to colonize the next planet in line down the solar system, as Earth in this near future continues to find itself ravaged by climate change, and many, many people trying to escape. So all the while, there are the issues and tensions and navigations of these very, very wealthy, very, very elite people. Well, all the while, you have others who work at Space Habitat Altair, others who are working at the revolution down on the planet Earth, who are conspiring as well in the background. So a lot of twists, a lot of turns, a lot of deep navigation of relationships between all these characters. Victor does this very well, where he will combine all these various aspects of one genre and another character, and all these things sort of melding together, all these plot threads that are beautiful and horrifying and make you think. There's a chapter in here about how a single grain of rice actually makes it to space, which is wonderful. So there's a level of granular detail that Victor brings alive on how life works in the future, and how all these things combine for a very compelling story. So we should have arcs of this very soon. We should have the manuscript online at Edelweiss and NetGalley very shortly. But if you enjoy thrills, if you enjoy mystery, if you enjoy some science fiction, Victor certainly is the author for you as well. I think that's it on my end. So I really appreciate all the time today, and I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, I'm around. Please let me know.
Thank you so much for joining us for our first Kensington Erewhon Overdrive in the Know. So we look forward to having you back next time. Right now, we're gonna shift to Alicia Condon, who is has been with us for many of our In the Know presentations, because she really just knows how to make you want to read her books, which she has some really fantastic ones that she's going to talk about now.
Thank you, Alex. So I'm Alicia. I'm one of the editorial directors at Kensington. How many of you remember the iconic soap opera Dallas? Well, I definitely do. And I like to think of One in a Million as Dallas meets Yellowstone in a wonderfully juicy kind of a read that is perfect for fans of Danielle Steele or writers like Nora Roberts. In One in a Million, Daly combines all the fun of a soap opera with a dual romance and a little bit of romantic suspense. So in the very first chapter, we have the powerful patriarch of a wealthy Texas ranching family who is found dead in the box stall of his championship stallion. And it soon turns out, of course, that this was no natural death, but a murder. And the question becomes, who killed him? Was it his scorned ex-wife, Was it wife number 2 who he was cheating on and she just found this out? Was it his horse trainer who wants to take his place competing in the reigning championships that they are training horses for on the ranch? Or was it one of his children who now are all at each other's throats as they try to take control of the ranch and their very wealthy inheritance? That question isn't going to be answered until we get to the 3rd book in this trilogy. So you will be on tenterhooks, but the ride along the way is totally worth it. Then we're going to go on to talk about Fern Michaels. In just a couple of paragraphs, Fern Michaels can define a character and what interesting, unique people they always are. In The Wild Side, our protagonist is an 8-year-old girl at the beginning of the book, and she has to spend the entire summer in traction because she's been in a very serious automobile accident. During that summer, she discovers that she has a real affinity for solving puzzles and for learning how to do magic tricks. So it comes as no surprise that when she grows up, she becomes a seemingly ordinary guidance counselor who has a secret undercover job as a high-class escort, busting bad guy billionaires who are up to no good. I love Fern's sensibility. She's the kind of writer who loves to take the story of ordinary women who have unseen talents and who are out to try to even the odds in our world. And I think that that's a theme that all of us can relate to. My 3rd book is To Slip the Bonds of Earth by Amanda Flower, who, by the way, is a retired librarian. In this book, we've all heard about the Wright brothers, but very few of us know that they had a sister, Catherine Wright, who is a real-life hidden figure who ran their home, ran their bicycle shop while they were off at Kitty Hawk inventing the first airplanes. She was also the only one of the Wright siblings who actually completed her university education. She became a professor of Latin, and she was also a suffragette, a really fascinating character. In the first of this new historical mystery series by Agatha Award winner Amanda Flower, Catherine is also an amateur sleuth, and she is solving all of the problems of her brothers behind the scenes, especially when those problems involve a murder.
Thank you so much, Alicia. And we're going to turn it over to Aly Huber to talk about Sisters of Fortune, which is a novel I am so excited about as someone who is basically, I've been Titanic obsessed since I was a child, and I have, in a personal note, passed that on apparently to my son, who is going as Captain E.J. Smith for Halloween this year, and he is 6.
That's a great costume. So I am so excited to share this book with you. Many of you probably know me from my historical mystery series, in particular, the Verity Kemp mysteries, which I will add as a side note, there are more coming. Book 7 is going to be out later next year, so that's not ended. But I'm talking about Sisters of Fortune, which is my first standalone historical fiction novel. And I did so much extensive research for this because people who know Titanic know Titanic. So I knew I had to have my facts in a row. So it's inspired by the real story of the Fortune sisters from Winnipeg, Canada. I had never heard of this family when I was doing my research, and I was just fascinated by them. They're such a fascinating family. They really were on the Titanic. The 3 sisters sailed with their father and their mother and their younger brother. Their father was a self-made man. He earned his fortune in real estate. And they did hail from Winnipeg, which I found interesting to note that in 1912 was the city in North America with the most millionaires per capita. And there were a lot of Canadians on the Titanic that we don't hear a lot about. And so I got to feature them as well. The Fortune family went on a grand tour to Europe and the Mediterranean, as many wealthy families did, and they sailed home on the Titanic. It was their final treat, their final adventure, which of course had a fateful ending. As they embark on the voyage, the three sisters, who are all in their 20s, were at a crossroads in their lives, and they were facing some pivotal decisions about who they were and what they wanted. They each longed for different things: independence, love, to make a difference. And some of those desires are not embraced by the wealthy upper class circles they socialize in, and put them in conflict with their own family members and each other. Their time on Titanic only accentuates this and brings these feelings bubbling to the surface. While researching, I discovered numerous instances involving the Fortunes where truth was stranger than fiction, and I had to use those instances. Events involving Egyptian soothsayers, moth-eaten buffalo coats, and altered tickets. All of this fired my imagination. I also strove to feature some of the famous Titanic figures, such as the Astors and Margaret Brown, as well as many who are lesser known but no less interesting: mystery writers, theater producers, female doctors, and suffragettes. I made it a mission of sorts to unearth and highlight these lesser known figures and share some commonly overlooked anecdotes about the voyage. So even readers who are familiar with the Titanic and big fans will also discover something new and be swept up in the story. We all think we know Titanic, but Sisters of Fortune transforms the oft-repeated tale of that tragic journey into something intimate and emotionally powerful. With vivid descriptions and deep personal connections, it will rivet readers to the page. It's perfect for readers of richly detailed historical fiction based on real events, women's fiction, fans of women's fiction and romance, and for those interested in the Titanic, the Gilded Age, and shows like Downton Abbey. It also features a detailed historical note and a book club reader's discussion guide at the end.
Thank you so much. As I mentioned, I can't wait to read it. I know that ARCs, if they haven't arrived yet, they will be arriving very shortly, because I have been asking, and I know that they are on the way. So really excited about this one. Thanks so much for joining us for this.
Thank you.
And now we have Jenny Holiday with Earl's Trip, her debut on the Kensington list, a really fun historical romance that I am also looking forward to getting my ARC of.
Hi, I'm thrilled to be here. I am the daughter of a librarian and the niece of a librarian, and I truly, genuinely take so much more joy when I see my books in libraries than when I do in bookstores. I mean, I do take joy from seeing them in bookstores, but there's something about a library. Earl's Trip is a Regency set romantic comedy about a group of Earl friends who go on an annual trip together. And this year, their trip is derailed by the appearance of a pair of sisters that Archie, our head Earl for the year, grew up with. The girls end up crashing the party for what the great Sarah MacLean calls romance reasons, which basically means it's probably too long of a story for me to tell you here. But the party gets crashed by the girls, and the girls and the Earls have to find a way to get on for a couple weeks. Instead of telling you about the plot of the book, I thought that I would take the opportunity to tell you how this book came to be, because it's kind of a funny story. And usually when people ask me, where do I get my ideas? I don't have a good answer. They just sort of arrive and I write a book. But in this case, there was kind of I can almost look at it like an archaeologist looking at the past of how this book came to be. It started with the title, Earl's Trip. It just popped into my head one day, many years ago, pre-pandemic. And so I immediately took to Twitter and tried to get somebody else to write this book, which if you're an author, they tell you not to do. Your agents are always saying, don't put anything on Twitter. People will steal your ideas. I was trying to get somebody to steal this idea, but I had no takers. So I kind of put it aside. It wasn't even really an idea at that point. It was just a title. Fast forward to lockdown, and I was apparently the last person on earth who had never seen Ted Lasso. So this partway through lockdown, I binged it all. And like everybody else, I was completely charmed by Ted and his friends, the Diamond Dogs, this group of men who are unconditionally supporting each other, who are pushing back on norms of toxic masculinity. I don't think they know that they're doing that. I think that's part of their charm, but we, the audience, know that they're doing that. And then I watched Bridgerton, and I have been a big fan of the books, but I was also a huge fan of the TV show. And a lot of people smarter than I am will disagree, but I loved the way that the show was a period piece, yet modern. And I can still remember, like, we as the audience were kind of in on the joke. I loved that. And I can still remember early in that show, first or second episode, there was a ball scene, and the orchestra at the ball started playing Material Girl by Madonna, which fit the moment perfectly. And I gasped, and I thought, that's it. That's the Earls. This is the vibe that I'm going for. So I thought, I'm going to have to do this myself. And I didn't at that point in my career see myself doing historical romance, but here I am. So I, without burdening you with the whole plot, I'll just say that the book is meant to be kind of a rompy, low conflict. This was my pandemic book. Nobody's suffering too much. I do seem to be unable to write rom-coms without some kind of core of seriousness. So be aware that there is kind of a core of having to deal with grief and death and rejection. The characters are also themselves or family members dealing with what modern audiences will recognize as Alzheimer's disease and ADHD, but mostly it's a low conflict, fun book about friendship and love, which is what I, as a reader, love about genre romance. And I hope that's what this book delivers as well. And I'll leave you with one thing I thought that you all as librarians would particularly appreciate is that in this book, there was a lot of discussion of and actual enacting of reading novels in trees. So the heroine, when she was growing up, used to sneak off and read Gothic novels in trees. And that bit is autobiographical, because my librarian mother, of course, equipped me with books all summer long, many of which were not age appropriate. And I used to climb the tree in our backyard. We had a big willow tree, and we rigged up this pulley with jump ropes attached to a tote bag. And I would climb up the tree, pull the book up, and then a couple hours later, my mom would come down and put some snacks in the bag, and I'd bring the snacks up. So if you ever read books in trees or wanted to read books in trees, this book is for you.
That was amazing. If I didn't want to read this before, I definitely do now, although I already did want to read it, because I'm not a huge historical romance reader, but there are certain ones that I'm just kind of a sucker for. And also this cover is just like so much fun and so inviting. So really excited to get this one out there. So that is all of our wonderful, beautiful guest presenters, and I wanted to give them the bulk of the time to talk. So we've already gone over an hour, so I'm just going to kind of quickly go through some of the remaining titles. Of course, they're all available in the catalog on Overdrive. I can also provide this presentation to anyone who would like it, and of course, as well, answer any questions and provide any print or digital ARCs to anyone who is interested. So first we have Terry Parlato with her second book, What Waits in the Woods. This book owns one of my favorite Kensington covers that we have ever done. When I saw it, I just was like, you have to pick this book up. Terry's first book, All the Dark Places, performed really nicely, got very good reviews. She does a lot of events. She is excellent to work with. She writes a really twisty, exciting psychological suspense. And this one has a backdrop of ballet as well, which I think also really engages people, particularly for suspense novels. Then we have The Busybody by Kemper Donovan. This is a debut mystery for fans of Richard Osman. It is fun, it is humorous, it is a really twisty mystery with lots of different characters and suspects. I think the cover is really on trend for what people are looking for in mystery right now. And this author is also really well connected and has a podcast that is actually focused on mystery and Agatha Christie. So again, very well connected in the mystery community, and the voice in this book is just so much fun. And there will be future books featuring the sleuth, the heroine in this initial book. Donna Everhart is back, the author of The Saints of Swallow Hill, which has just been like a runaway hit and actually was just on the Bookscan bestseller list in week 90 last week. Donna's back with her new book, When the Jessamine Grows. And in this book, instead of focusing on the Depression as she did in The Saints of Swallow Hill, we're instead immersed in the Civil War and a very strong heroine in the South who is doing everything she can to keep her family together, and in the face of just unimaginable horrors that she is witnessing and a party to during the Civil War era. So Donna is really just a fantastic author. She is excellent at events. She is just wonderful to work with. She writes a very well-researched historical, and we're excited to have her back after 2 years. The Still Point by Tammy Greenwood, also known as T. Greenwood, is the new book from this acclaimed author who writes contemporary and sometimes semi-historical fiction set between the 60s and present day. This is another book that has a backdrop of ballet, and it is kind of Black Swan meets Little Fires Everywhere. So it is commercial literary fiction, but also with some suspenseful psychological elements to it, set in the really high drama, cutthroat world of professional ballet. Kate Claiborne, The Other Side of Disappearing. I'm sure everyone remembers Kate from Georgie All Along, which was a Book of the Month Club selection. It was also featured on GMA and with Julia Quinn, author of Bridgerton. Georgie gets incredible, Kate Claiborne gets incredible quotes. Georgie All Along had an incredible roundup of quotes and coverage. Kate is really an author to watch, and she continues to grow with each book, and her reviews are just spectacular. And we anticipate this new book to be no exception, and cover to come very soon. If the Tide Turns, this is a debut from Rachel Ruckert. I just started reading it last night. I read the first chunk. The writing is just beautiful, lyrical, really kind of made me think of Hester and The Night Ship. This is historical fiction set during kind of the golden age of pirates in New England, when women certainly were not welcome to live outside of convention, but our heroine is a free spirit who is trying to tamp that down and is being promised into a marriage that she does not want. Of course, she falls in love with a sailor, and there is adventure, there is heartbreak, there is high seas, and witchcraft, and it just is a very exciting page-turning debut that I think is really on trend with what people are looking for right now. Colleen Cambridge is back with her second American in Paris mystery, A Murder Most French. Mastering the Art of French Murder came out this year to acclaim. Really has done fantastically well. The package is so much fun, very appealing. Colleen is so engaged. She does so many events. She's just fantastic author, and this series is so much fun. It is starring Julia Child and her fictional best friend as the sleuth in post-World War II Paris. Really, what more could you ask for in a historical mystery series? Under the Paper Moon, Shayna Steinberg. This is a debut on the Kensington list for fans of Jacqueline Winspear. This is kind of a noir-esque historical fiction mystery with lots of adventure in it, featuring two former spies who are also former lovers who have to come back together to solve one last case. The Flower Sisters, another debut, takes place in Missouri. Also, like so many of the books we've talked about today, based in on a true historical event. Michelle Collins Anderson infuses drama and humor and heartbreak into a dual timeline story of family saga across generations, perfect for fans of Donna Everhart. She's just an amazing, excellent new voice in historical fiction. And this is another one where we will have ARCs coming soon. Charlie Donnelly. I don't know what I can possibly say about Charlie Donnelly other than he's just literally one of my favorite suspense authors. And I am not just saying that because he writes for Kensington. His books are amazing. And they are also basically taking the TikTok world by storm. If you search for Charlie Donnelly books on TikTok, there are millions and millions of views. 20 years later was a breakout for him. And it continues to sell extremely well. And now The Girl Who Was Taken, one of his backlist titles, has really been blowing up as well. Everybody is very excited to get a new book from Charlie. The manuscript on this one just came in, and he just has a way in his writing of having this amazing lyrical voice that is telling these horrifying, horrible stories of psychological suspense and the things and lengths people will go to for revenge and to get the means to an end that is unimaginable for most of us. Debut mystery from Anne Claire. This is a contemporary mystery, A Cyclist's Guide to Crime and Croissants, set in the south of France, that also features bicycling. So we're bicycling in the south of France with mystery in the summer. I don't know what kind of armchair travel we could possibly want more than the south of France in summer with bicycles. It's not armchair travel for Alicia, though, because she is regularly doing things like this in real life. And then last but certainly not least, we have The Charmed Friends of Trove Isle by Annie Raines. Her Kensington debut was in September with Through the Snow Globe, which is the perfect read for the holidays and winter of this year. This will be her next book, perfect for summer, perfect for fans of Josie Silver and Sophie Cousins. This is women's fiction with romance and kind of, a thread of, threads of friendship and family and drama and heartbreak all woven into a really beautiful and uplifting story. So that is our list. And I'm so thankful that, everybody came out to both talk about their books today and also to hear about these books. I know everybody has a lot of demands on their time. So to take the time out to hear about, what we have upcoming for readers is just, I really appreciate it. And as I mentioned, an email will go out that will have contact information for questions, ARCs, etc. There's an Edelweiss catalog of these books as well. So all of the titles that have available digital ARCs are already up there. But if you're like me and you like a print ARC, which is ironic because I'm director of digital sales, but if you like print like me, you can request those print ARCs for me as well. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your week.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everybody.